I've got the pumpkin in there. I use one of their quick performance gaskets, the reusable gaskets. I should also mention when I got this, I got it bare. And they unfortunately forgot to put in the drain and fill tubes, and the jack plate. Quick Performance was awesome, sent me some money back, and I just bought this stuff online. So I've put in my own filler cap, welded in the bung drain, and then the ring I machined on my lathe over there to the size that I needed, and then welded it up in position. Sent it to powder coating at Flash Fire Coating here in town. Anyway, so I've got one axle in right now. I just put a bit of grease on the seal, and then I drive the axle in. I'll pick up and show you where I did the other side. I should also mention that I see a lot of guys online just grabbing their hammer, smashing the end of the axle. I mean, they're butchering the Quick Performance logo. I mean, maybe if you're putting a wheel on, you don't care, but it takes nothing just to put a piece of wood there and hit the wood. Don't smash your axle. That makes no sense to me. But anyway, I'm gonna put this camera down, and hopefully you can see me putting this axle inside the housing. So you got to pull the seal off the axle. They put both seals on one axle just so you have them, and these go with the hollow side in, okay, solid side out. I use a large socket, and I just center it up on there and tap it in. First I'll put some grease on this just to let it go home a little easier. I see guys on the internet using silicone. You know, maybe they know something I don't, but I've been working on motorcycle engines forever, and never have I used silicone on seals. Never had a leak. So hopefully the machining tolerances on these ends are good. If that would be the only reason I could see something not working, but I'm gonna trust that they produce a lot of these rear ends, so they know what they're doing. All right, so just kind of position that in. There it is. All right, and you don't need to pound the hell out of these. You're just gonna tap it. Okay. Okay, so we've bottomed out right where we need to be. And so again, I'm just gonna use a bit of grease on the seal here, just so the axle slides in without tearing that rubber. Okay, so try and support it as you're putting the axle in. Hopefully you can see. Don't drag it across that rubber. You'll feel it kind of start to go in at the end. You should be able to dial. There we go. Okay, so it threaded in. You can feel the splines go in there. And so as I said, I'm going to get a block of wood now and just start to drive this home. All right, so let's square it in there. And we're just going to give it a few taps here. There it is. You hear that difference in tone? We're home. I'll bring you around. Show you the protrusion there, so it's just sitting a little bit proud. I'll show you the other side as well. Okay, so it's just a little bit proud. I thought maybe I'll just touch base on these brackets. Now, if you've got drum brakes, this isn't going to apply to you, but if you're running the discs, and I'm just running the GM standard rears, the bracket kit they've provided, which is here, make sure you cut it open because it does have this little bit of instructions. So when you're putting these brackets on, you'll see that there's a bit of a groove. Now that goes on the side where the bearing is sitting proud, so you want that groove to go over the bearing and lock it in. When you're putting these brackets on, maybe the best way to describe it is the open mouth of it, so you'll have to figure out what side's left and right. They're not stamped, so it took me a bit of flip-flopping. But the open mouth part is going to face down to the bottom of the axle, okay? So that puts 2 of these bolts at the top, 2 at the back. So maybe like 11 o'clock if you're looking at the axle the right way. 11 o'clock and 7 o'clock maybe. All right, and then you can put the nuts on. And then these brackets, these are the same side to side. They're threaded. Okay, these are gonna go on here like this. And that's gonna put your caliper at the back. And that's what we're wanting. We're not wanting it to be, you know, the front of the axle. So everything goes to the rear. And yeah, I'm not mounting up my brakes right yet, but I just want to get these brackets on and make sure I'm doing everything right. I just thought I'd switch gears here a bit. I'm working on the Quick Performance rear end and my shock mounts. And I'm not running coilovers, I'm running Viking adjustable shocks, but regular coil springs. So I need to make a mount for the Quick Performance to actually mount up these shocks. And so previously I used these bolts, and now I found on Summit some RideTech kind of cool shock standoffs. The thing is, they're a little large in diameter, so I'm going to turn them down on my lathe here, and then just get them to fit into the shock bottoms. I know it's not loaded right now. I can get on it and lower it a bit, but part of the bigger problem is that the distance from here to here is quite severe, and you don't want to be pushing on that top knuckle there to try and bring that forward. So what I found was this RideTech. They're for Shockwave, and as I said, I turned down the lathe the stud that's going to go through here. So what I'm thinking is, if I mount these on the lower part here, put the two bolts through here and here, then my shock will line up perfectly with that stud. All right, there's the completed piece. So that's the RideTech lower shock support for their Shockwave shocks. And so what'll happen is when I put weight on the rear end, as you can see it's starting to go down, I'll be able to slip that over. And what I did was I angled them inwards because I didn't want the shock being too far out. If I can keep it a little more vertical, it's going to give me a better ride, and that gives it a good position. As you can see from the side there, when that goes in, I'm not having to force it. Once it's on that stud, once it's on that stud there, it's going to be a good location for it. So I'll finish up this side here, just working on this one now, drilling that second mount, and then we're all wrapped up. So there we are with the RideTech Shockwave mounts at the bottom. As I said, they're at a slight angle, which brings my lower shock mount in. So for my wider tires that are going to go on here, that don't have any worry of things rubbing, and that gives the shock a good distance away from the axle here, and how it fits at the top. There's no strain on that fore or aft, so everything works out well on both sides. So I think that's a pretty good solution if anyone's looking for one on how to mount lower shock mounts. I know a lot of the coilovers come with some mounts, but I haven't seen anything for just your standard kind of shock mounts. So these worked out pretty good. Just got to throw my front wheels on, and we'll have everything mobile, so I can wheel it around to get my motor dropped in before the body goes back on the frame, and I can start with my final gapping and everything once everything's down for my doors and fenders and that sort of thing. So that's the plan. See you next time.